makes us who we are. Okay, so till the 1950s, the initial thought was that, we are the way we're born. So whatever is a genetic self that we inherit, this is what we are going to, this is what we have as a behavior. But then we've learned that, we can develop a behavior. So that's why when you go to learn something, when you go on a course, when you pick up a degree, when you get certified on something, you learn a different way of doing it. So you develop a particular behavior. And essentially then what happens is we also have a context for our behavior, right? The way we respond to situations. So for instance, we know that there is, a kind of a caveat, or there's a clear rule which says that, one should not lie. Okay. There are no conditions applied to it. There are no situations to it. The commandment does pretty much say that, you're not supposed to do this. Okay. But what we do is we create a context for ourselves in the way we respond. So, we find it okay to lie for someone who's really close to us. We may not lie for somebody that you're not very close to. There could be certain situations where you're okay with little white lies. There could be certain situations where you would say that it's okay to kind of, fudge things a little bit when you're going to talk about it, because the greater interest is being served by it. So all of that is contextual. So what we do is we are looking at kind of, adapting that scenario. So when you say a developed behavior is when you learn something. All right. So for instance, if I was going to a finishing school and I learn how to use silverware to eat my meals. Okay. So then when I start using cutlery for my meals, that's a developed behavior. Okay. But where I have grown up, the family that I come from and everything else, everybody's used to eating with their hands. Okay. So for a longest part in my life, that used to be the scenario. Okay. Then I went to finishing school and I learned this new behavior to say that I should be using cutlery. Okay. A contextual behavior is, depending on my environment, I may choose to deploy that behavior or I may choose not to. So if I go back to my village and if I'm sitting with the people that, are from my village, I'm not going to ask for cutlery at that stage. Okay. Even though I've learned that this is how I'm supposed to do it and all the rest of it. Similarly, when I'm at a fine dining restaurant with clients, I'm less likely to be using my hands to eat a meal because it is not appropriate for that context. So the difference between developed behavior and contextual behavior is when you learn something, when you learn a particular way of doing something or saying something or behaving in a certain way, which is essentially what training and development is all about, right? You learn and you develop a behavior because that's what your training has taught you, that this is how you're supposed to react in a situation. A contextual behavior is when you take a call to say that, is it appropriate for me to deploy that behavior right now? Or is it not going to be relevant? Okay, so that's a choice that you're looking at making.